For Rudy Gobert, of course, there's that monkey on his shoulder of he has to get past the hurdle of the playoffs. He has to be able to win games in the playoffs so that people respect him. A lot of people don't acknowledge much of his defensive prowess because of how Terrence Mann was able to make those threes and how he was just apparently exposed in the playoffs. Obviously, if you understand the context of those games, you would see that, of course, it wasn't all Rudy Gobert, but I already made a video discussing it and you could see it on my channel. I'll link it towards the end. But today I just want to talk about another Jazz player that has had monkeys on his shoulders, and I think he would stand to benefit way more than Rudy Gobert if he were to also perform well in the postseason. And of course, much like Rudy Gobert, he is also a very good rim protector, one of the best in the league. I mean, he's one of the top 4 active players that has been averaging over 2 blocks a game throughout their careers. And this season, he's been leading the league in blocks coming off the bench. And obviously, he's coming off the bench. But if he were to play as many minutes as Rudy Gobert does at the moment, he would actually average more blocks than him. Obviously, that's not how it works. It's a hypothetical. But he would be second in blocks if he were to play over 30 minutes a game. But really, nobody cares. And I think that's what I want to get to in this video, okay? Nobody really cares that Hassan Whiteside is a great rim protector and that he can block shots, because everything else he does on defense sucks, right? He cannot guard the pick and roll for his life. A lot of times you can make the claims that the effort he puts in on both ends is purely for stats. It's purely to get points and blocks and rebounds. And this is where people take his words out of context. They twist it around. When he said that he just wanted to get his 2K ratings up, he didn't really mean that. It seemed like he was joking at the time. It seemed like it was one offhand comment he made after being asked about his great game that he had with double-digit blocks. I mean, that was just an amazing game, obviously. And he was saying a lot of good things in the beginning, and people just ignored that because of the last comment he made. And that's basically the reputation he's built. He's gotten himself to this position where even with him averaging over a block a game with only 15 minutes played, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, his attitude isn't there, right? He lacks the effort needed to being a top 5 center in the league. The fact that people can point to Rudy Gobert having DPOYs after DPOYs and you only having one All-NBA defensive team in your bag, it just has everything you need to know. And worse yet, during the days when he was so frustrated at his limited role in the Miami Heat, being benched in favor of Bam Adebayo, his attitude just wasn't there. It was clear that he wasn't meshing with the culture in Miami, and it was clear that Bam, on the other hand, was doing very well. He fit perfectly with what Miami wanted, and he is one of the best perimeter defensive centers in the league right now. And it's quite obvious that it paid off to start Bam in favor of Whiteside. Fast forward to the present moment, he is not the same overpaid center he was with the Miami Heat. Now he is being underpaid and he is on a minimum contract playing a backup role for somebody who was a rival to him for a long time, Rudy Gobert. It's really interesting, isn't it? How fast the league changes, how quickly your role on a team can change. I mean, being a starting center and now being a backup to your rival, I mean, that must have humbled Whiteside so much. And I'm pretty sure Rudy Gobert could go up to him and just rub it in his face and make things worse for him. But he's not that type of guy. He's a good guy. And when Whiteside decided to join the Utah Jazz, the first person to reach out to him was Rudy Gobert. And it just shows you that Gobert is willing to put the past behind him and build something better with Whiteside so that they can contend for a playoff spot and contend for a championship. Obviously, the Utah Jazz being a playoff team is no question. There's no question. It was only injuries that was going to prevent them from not making the playoffs this season. But really, what Utah Jazz need now is to contend for a championship. They need to go to the finals. They need to get themselves out of the second round and get themselves finally playing for a chance to make it to the NBA Finals. There's a lot of pressure being built now for the Utah Jazz to actually make it to the conference finals this season. Because obviously for years now, the Utah Jazz have been one of the top teams in the league and they don't have any conference finals appearances to show for it. And not just that, you have Hassan Whiteside. When he's played for the Miami Heat during the playoffs, he crumbled. He absolutely got manhandled. I remember watching the 2016 playoffs when Jonas Valanciunas was manhandling Whiteside in the paint. I mean, Oh my goodness. As a Raptors fan, I was delighted. I was very happy. But I knew that at that point, Whiteside was it was the beginning of the end, because it was one of those moments that would define you when you're a player of that caliber. 2016 Whiteside was a borderline all-star, and many people thought he could reach the potential to where he could be one of the top centers in the league. Even to this day, the problem with Whiteside never was that he couldn't put up points, he couldn't put up boards, he couldn't block shots. The problem was he couldn't put it all together to where it could contribute to a team win, it can contribute to a defense that is all-time, or at the very least a top 5 defense anchored by his godly rim protection. Now the Utah Jazz have two players that are absolute beasts at protecting the rim. Okay, unlike the days when they had Derek Favors and guys like Tony Bradley backing up Gobert. I mean, they were paying a lot more money to guys like Derek Favors who just didn't put up the numbers that Whiteside did. Utah now finally learning their lesson. They're not going to pay a center that much money to back up a already perennial defensive center. No. They're just going to pay minimum contracts to those guys. But look who they get in return. They get Whiteside. How the hell did an NBA team manage to finesse the league like this? Whiteside is worth more than his contract right now, and there's no doubt about that. But what really sticks out is that nobody gives a damn. Nobody cares. Because the reality is, the monkeys on the shoulders just brush off anything positive about the guy. Anything good I can say right now in this video is immediately spanked off by these monkeys, okay? These critics. And they have a lot of things to say about this guy. They have a lot of things that stick. They stick. They keep sticking to him like he's a lazy guy. He lacks effort on defense. He doesn't know what he's doing half the time when he's guarding pick and roll. With Rudy Gobert, although there's disrespect, people are going to agree that he is one of the best defensive players in the league right now, and there's no question about that. But nobody is going to stick up for Whiteside. Nobody's going to say anything remotely positive about this guy when they're met with all of this baggage, all of this criticism, all of this negative energy. Because, of course, he's not worth defending like a guy like Rudy Gobert, because he hasn't really shown much yet. And that's why I think this postseason, okay, he stands to benefit way more than Rudy Gobert if he were to put up a very, very great performance. It could only be one game that he plays where he has absolutely amazing numbers, and it doesn't even have to be that. It could just be a spurt, okay? A couple of spurts during the postseason where he shows his dominance on both ends. I mean, that could be everything they need. And with that, in combination with the Utah Jazz making it to the conference finals, not only that, but even making it to the finals, oh my goodness, that's just gonna be the icing of the cake. And Hassan Whiteside at that point would be redeemed as a player. He would be no longer the irredeemable center. No, he's going to be that player that people are going to look to and respect more. They're gonna look at his numbers and say, oh, I see why he's averaging 2.3 blocks per game in his career. I see why. He's been doing very good stuff in the playoffs, and it shows. And I think for the Utah Jazz this season, it starts with winning those big games, right? Those matchups that they have against the top Western Conference teams, because those are the teams they're going to play into the second round, into the conference finals. And I'm hoping to put this video out on January 1st, which is when they'll play their first matchup of the season against the Warriors. Because I do think, and this might sound crazy, that the Utah Jazz have a good chance of beating this team. Not just tonight, but in the playoffs as well. And lucky for you, you don't have to wonder why I think this way, because I already made a video talking about it right here on the screen. You can click on it right now and see why I think this way. Full disclosure, I know this video and the video on the Warriors potentially losing to the Jazz might not age well in the future. I know the Warriors could get a player like Miles Turner just anytime now. Maybe they're waiting for the trade deadline just to set that off and trigger everybody.